And hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Welcome to Get a Grip with Coach Elix. I'm your host, Coach Elix, and with me, my amazing co host,
Stephen Frederick Masick is here.
Stephen Frederick Masick. Stephen the Medium,
Yes.
also my husband, and an amazing co host. It's in the house. And today we have what I would call perhaps an important show. We're going to call it Voices from the Margins. We're going to talk about immigration, identity, and human rights. And we have a friend, an attorney, and a business owner, an innkeeper from Provincetown, Massachusetts, Steve Katsurinis, who's going to be joining us later on as a guest. So I think this is an awesome and important conversation that we need to have, and that's what we're here for. But before we do that, Stephen, another important conversation that we need to have is how you doing?
How am I doing? You sound like I'm right back to Rhode Island.
Well, I mean,
And right outside of Federal Hill, where I grew up.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Hello. After 32 years, I think I speak three languages: Spanish, English, and Rhode Island.
Yes, and that is that's the hardest one, Rhode Island. Just saying, it just is the hardest. So I am doing amazingly great, just great. I'm starting. I'm fitting in another course before the main part of the summer, so it's going to start towards the end of this month, which is a great course. Well, they're all great courses, but I can't wait. I love teaching, so that's a really great thing. And I'm just getting excited and prepared for Sunday, because Sunday at 7 p.m. is going to be our first initial YouTube Steelix the series show at 7 p.m. So how cool is that?
And if you followed us when we were doing our Sunday shows, Steelix on Sundays, this perhaps a little different, right, Stephen?
Yes.
But you're gonna get the same funny dynamics that makes us pretty damn unique. So I think you should tune in and check us out, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Stephen, tell them a little bit about what the format of the Steelix on Sundays is going to look like.
Well, Steelix on Sundays was the other show, right?
I mean,
so this is Steelix the series.
Steelix the series. See,
Well, it's confusing, Elix, because they're both on Sunday. Sunday works well with us. So we just decided to do. First of all, we have never had a YouTube channel that was a combination for both of us, like Steelix the series. Because even though we used to call it Steelix Sundays with Steelix, it was always like on my YouTube page or my Facebook page. So this is completely not Stephen the Medium. This is completely 100% 50-50. So that's number one, the difference on sort of the social media platform. But also number two, it's not going to be in the kitchen every single week in cooking, even though we're going to sort of put some of the shows into the kitchen, because you love doing that and people also love watching you do this. But it really is just more about talking and focusing on just what's going on in life with people, just really tuning into not only the current status of the world, but just what people are dealing with due to the current status of the world. So but like you said, it's going to be also fun, because how can we not be fun? But the first show is going to be really, really good. So if you're just like on a wink wink, if you're single and you just haven't been able to find that person, you got to listen.
If you're single and you haven't been able to find that person, you have to listen.
Yes.
Okay. So are we gonna be like if you're single and you haven't been able to find that person, just listen. Like what are we, like a grinder? Like, I mean, seriously, Stephen. Like,
I think we got to do Grindr / Tinder, right?
I'm listening here. I'm like, oh my God, where is he going?
Yes, this listen, the greatest thing about this show is that it's coming from me as an attorney and a medium, right? I mean, more so the mediumship than the attorney piece because I'm no longer practicing. But I mean, for you with the chef piece and the coaching piece, you bring such specifics
Joy.
and such great things to people. We both heal people in different ways, but what you do as a coach and why your business is just so busy and how amazing you are is because of what you do and being able to assess and give advice and give tools and whatnot. So I think I know the combination is going to be terrific. So it's just, listen, it's a way for us to just talk about subjects, however they come up, with a sort of a different angle that people may have not heard about to be able to get to where they want to go.
Awesome. Awesome. I
Yeah,
can't wait. I
I
really
can't
can't
wait
wait.
either.
And by the way, Stephen, one thing that I also wanted to say is I talked to you about this yesterday. You know, I have a presence on Instagram, of course. Most of my presence is just about get a grip with Coach Helix. But now that we're working on our YouTube channel, I'm going to start merging some of that on my Instagram as well. So I'm going to start doing some daily daily videos just to continue to be in touch in a very different kind of way with the people that follow. So if you don't follow, you should be following Stephen the Medium and Coach Helix because that is a way to keep up with what we're up to.
Well,
So
that's a win-win for people listening to you if you're doing daily videos. Seriously, it is definitely a win-win. I mean, I've seen some of the, not a lot, but some of the emails or feedback after you start working with somebody, and they're mind-blowing. They really
well,
are.
yeah. You know, it's interesting. I get it, Stephen. And, sometimes I don't take time to acknowledge that for myself and to give myself grace because I feel it's almost like it's my job. So I just do what I'm here to do. But I very seldom take time to acknowledge, like, you know what, I've done really well. So I'm not as good as taking the compliments. You know that. I'm very dismissive. So thank you for that. You
Listen,
know,
it's
and
it's not it's not it's just not easy for somebody, to come home several years ago and look at their husband, which you did to me, and said, what do you think if I left my corporate job and that I've had forever and started my own business? And I was like, I think I've been waiting for you to say this. Do it, and that you've made this business so successful. That is right there is something that it's just something to hang your hat on, and I think it's something that every morning you should just think about.
and I do. I do. I love what I do, and it feels that it's effortless. Don't get me wrong. We work really hard, both of us. We do because it's when you have your own business, it's like you're working almost always.
Yeah.
But it feels effortless because we love so much what we do. So,
Yes.
and by the way, that brings me to be honest with you, Stephen. And again, this is a conversation that we've had. This subject today, I believe is just an important subject because, you know what, I'm done with, we just have to be politically correct or we have to be diplomatic or we have to be this or that. I'm done with that stuff. I think these are subjects that are critical, that are really important, and if we have a platform, which thank God we have this platform and our personal platforms on social media, this is an opportunity to share our voice and to perhaps get others to feel to get activated as well, because I think oftentimes, of course, we're living in such a scary world right now that I think people are paralyzed by fear. But I've always said that, you know what, when fear based fear based anything, it's like an unwinnable game, no matter what. So
Yeah.
I'm not willing to feed anything fear based
No,
in
I
here.
agree. And I think partially why we're here is because of the old way things were working, of let's just sit down and communicate. And that's why we're here. We're way past that. We're done with that. I mean, clearly. And I hope everyone understands that. But before we do get into the seriousness, because I'm really
Hmm.
excited that Steve's here, can I just give a quick update on Jackson?
Uh, I'd be shocked if you don't tell everyone how obsessed you are with a freaking turkey that comes to our house every day, and now he feeds the turkey.
Oh, no,
And
but I
if the
haven't,
turkey
Elix.
doesn't show on a daily basis, he goes into hysterics because
Well, listen,
something happened to the turkey allegedly. Go
Well,
ahead.
I haven't even shared this with you, but
Good.
I feed the birds, and I mean, I feed everything outside, right? And so I said, Elix was heading to the market from even CrossFit, working out, and said, I'm heading to the market. What do you need? So I tell him to get oranges, and he was like, why? I'm like, because I like oranges. He was like, no, because he knew that. The Baltimore Orioles, even though they love the grape jelly, they also like oranges. So I put the little slices in. A no go. My Baltimore Orioles look at the oranges like, yeah, no, and they just go for the jelly. So these two little slices have been sitting there, and no one touches them. So I'm like, well, I'm just going to throw them out. So I throw them out on the other side of the deck, where some of the bird seed falls and whatnot. Guess who loves oranges?
Jackson.
Yeah, he doesn't eat the peels, but he ate everything inside, And now this morning, I did my routine, and then the last thing was to throw, cut up an orange in four different parts and just throw them there. And let me just tell you, Jackson's more than just a turkey. He's been sitting on our front lawn like a dog, like protecting the house. So he's by himself. I don't know what's going on with him. All I know is that I just I'm a Jackson fan. Just saying.
Okay. Well, I can imagine that oranges will be on my grocery list going forward.
Yeah, see,
Apple. Sometimes we put apples at night for the what are they called that come
the
visit it?
raccoons.
The raccoons. I mean, this is crazy, people. It's like a zoo. But you know
Yeah.
what, Stephen? We do need to take a commercial break. When we come back, we are gonna have an amazing conversation. Today, we're talking about voices from the margins, immigration, identity, and human rights, and we have an amazing guest, a friend of ours, an attorney, Steve Katsurinis, who is, like I said, an attorney and a business owner who understands firsthand how deeply these issues impact our communities and economy. We're going to take a small break. We'll be right back. And hello, everyone, and welcome back to Get a Grip with Coach Helix. I'm your host, Coach Helix, and with me, my amazing co host,
Stephen Frederick.
Stephen the Medium, who has, before we get going, has a special shout out. So go ahead, Stephen.
Special shout out to our wonderful Mark Clark, who is out in New York City having the time of his life. Mark usually produces our show. He's the host of Mark's Jukebox, and I just wanted to give him a shout out. He said he's listening.
Well, hello, Mr. Clark.
We miss you, Mark.
We missed you. Jim is doing a great job, but
He
we
is.
do miss you nevertheless. I hope you have a time of your life in New York City. So today, Stephen, we stand at a crossroads. It is a moment in history where the fabric of our nation identity is being stretched. It's being tested across the country behind political sound bites, and headlines. There are real human stories, unfolding stories of hope and heartbreak, of families separated, dreams deferred. And while some people debate policies from a position of comfort and privilege, others navigate unimaginable hardships just to survive. This is not just a political issue, it is a human issue, and that's why we are having today's show, Voices from the Margins, Immigration, Identity, and Human Rights. And we're cutting through the noise to center the voices that often go unheard, those mothers clinging to their children as they cross borders, the young or the youth fighting to claim a place they've called home their entire lives, and the advocates standing in the gap for justice. We're super honored to have our friend, Steve Katsurinis here. Steve is an attorney, a business owner who understands firsthand how deeply these issues impact our communities and economy. As an innkeeper of two boutique hotels in Provincetown, Massachusetts, A. Dyer and Benchmark. And Provincetown is a town whose vibrant summer economy depends on the contributions of out-of-country migrant workers. Steve brings a unique perspective on the human and economic realities of our immigration policy. So, hello and welcome, Mr. Steve.
Hello, Helix and Stephen. It's good to see you here for all of you, and great to be on the show.
It is great to have you here on the show. We couldn't think of anyone who is better than you to talk about what is going on. So guide us through that first and foremost from your perspective, Steve. What is happening, from the your personal perspective, of course, as a business owner in Provincetown, Massachusetts, and what's your take on this political climate as it relates to immigration policies?
Sure. So, as you said, this is a town like most resort towns where housing is expensive. There are plenty of jobs, but they're seasonal. So you can't really move to Provincetown and have a job for 6 months and think you're going to make it through the year. So what has happened over many, many years is immigrants have come here, first with like Portuguese fishermen 125 years ago, and more recently with people from Jamaica and Bulgaria and really every corner of the world to work here in the summertime. And there are a number of programs for visas, including the J-1 visa for college students, H-2B, non-agricultural visas, where people come here and they work primarily in kitchens, but also in other jobs in the tourism industry. And what has happened to us now is there's so much uncertainty and so much fear around the sense that there's no rules, that the things that we've always counted on don't apply anymore. And the biggest thing, in addition to being an attorney, in addition to being an innkeeper, I'm also an attorney. And as an attorney, I get contacted by people, employers, employees, people of various statuses. And the first conversation that I start with is, the Constitution doesn't guarantee American citizens the basic rights to liberty and to free speech. It affords it to everybody in the country. So visitors to our country have the same right to free speech as the three of us do, and everyone listening to us does. And people don't know that. And so people who want to sow chaos and create fear in the immigration system and make people question the presence of immigrants in our society rely on that. They rely on the ignorance of people who don't know that the Bill of Rights applies to everybody who's in this country, regardless of how they got here, regardless of what they're doing here. And so, I have to start with that very basic concept that you have the right to free speech. And then from there, the conversation goes on, and I try to focus also on what I've heard from people who have said to me, these are people in Washington, people who work in policy on both sides of the aisle, and they've said, look, the whole point of all of this is fear. The point is fear, and it's to create chaos and fear. And so arresting U.S. citizens and then losing them in the judicial process while their families run home, like this happened in Tallahassee, Florida recently. Family had to run home and find the passport and the birth certificate, and even then, ICE was taking the position that this person was illegal, that they were not allowed to be in this country, and that they should be deported. And the judge finally had to say, look, here's evidence that this person is a U.S. citizen. Please stop trying to assert that this person doesn't have a right to be here. So all of that is bad for business, right? When you run businesses in seasonal towns, which is already a challenge, and then all of a sudden, you don't know if you're going to get workers. You don't know if workers are going to be here all summer. You don't know if people who are immigrants who have a green card are going to be deported because they have a particular perspective on a conflict 3,000 miles away. And like I said, when you're running a business, chaos, fear, and uncertainty are your enemies. And that's what we have in abundance right now.
In Steve, both as an attorney and a business owner, how do you, what are the conversations that you're having with individuals that either are afraid of come to Provincetown or to the U.S. for that matter, and you've always counted on them to be here, but this time they're afraid to come for the reasons that you just mentioned, or they're here already and they're filled with that fear, that anxiety, that unknown that you just talked about. How are you managing that, both from the attorney perspective and the business owner perspective?
Sure. So first I'll talk about tourists and visitors who are coming or thinking about coming. If they say, and we've had a lot of Canadian tourists and some European tourists who have said to me, I'm sorry, but I have to cancel my reservation. We can't come to the United States this year. And I'm very understanding. We have created a brand for ourselves internationally that is unwelcoming. And so I cannot be upset with the tourists who are making a choice not to come when you hear stories about, British and Canadian citizens being detained at the border, sometimes for no reason at all, and then their families have to search for them and find them and hopefully get to them before they get deported to some third country that they've never lived in and maybe don't even speak the language. So I can't be upset with people who tell me that they can't come. If I do, and I'm respectful of how they're looking at it. I don't know if I lived, in Europe and was contemplating a vacation, if the United States would be on my list right now because of this chaos and this uncertainty. Nobody wants to go on vacation and have to worry about whether they're going to face legal action against them. So for the people that are here already, however they got here, whatever their situation is, one of the things I do, like I said earlier, I think the point of this is fear. So I try to instill in people some sense of confidence. And I say things to them like, the courts are routinely pushing back. Judges, regardless of how they were appointed to the bench, regardless of which president appointed them, they are not putting up with the idea that people will be kicked out of this country with no due process. It may be that people will have to leave. It may be that our law says that they have to leave, but they should get a hearing in court, and they should have an opportunity to determine the facts. And once that's done, then we have to trust that justice will be done correctly. So I try to instill a sense of confidence and a sense of that people will not face chaos. And I think that it has worked some. there have been situations that have been well publicized that make people nervous, and I can't deny that those exist. But I just try to give people a sense that in the end, as Martin Luther King said, Jr. said, the arc of justice is long, but it bends towards justice. We're going to see people eventually finding due process and finding their rights vindicated. But we have to not be afraid in the meantime. And I don't suggest that people take ridiculous chances. Again, regardless of their circumstances. I had a client the other day who came and talked to me, naturalized U.S. citizen, lives in this country for over 15 years, and said, I'm afraid to go to a protest because I'm afraid that I'll be arrested. And I said, well, you have the right to free speech, and you have the right to speak up. And I can certainly understand why you would be afraid. But I'm just going to tell you that the law is that you are free to speak up. And you should feel confident in that. If you choose not to do it, you don't owe anyone an explanation. If you can't do this today, you don't have to feel bad about it. Not everybody can be a hero every day, but you're here, and you just need to know that you have the right to free speech.
Wow, that is that's very telling, Steve. And we certainly recognize that because I personally have experienced a lot of that fear myself, somebody who is a U.S. citizen. Steve, we need to take a break, but hang in there. I know Stephen has questions for you, and there's plenty to talk about regarding the subject. So we are going to take a small break. We'll be right back.
Look forward to it.
And hello, everyone, and welcome back to Get a Grip with Coach Elix. I'm your host, Coach Elix, and with me, my amazing co-host,
Stephen Frederick.
Stephen the Medium. And today we're talking about voices from the margins, immigration, identity, and human rights. And we have an expert, our friend, attorney, Steve Katsurinis, who is also an innkeeper in Provincetown, Massachusetts, and who happens to be living firsthand the consequences of our current policy. So, Stephen, I know you have a question for Steve, so go ahead.
Hey, Steve. So I have a comment and then a question. So the comment is just listening to you. Thank God. Thank God we have you and we have people like yourself, because even for me and Elix, we've got friends that last year came from Canada that are sort of on the fence. And it's, you're left sort of not sometimes knowing how to sort of deal with it. And we don't have businesses that, that you do, that rely on people coming in and tourists coming in. And as an attorney, as you know, I mean, through school and what we learn and upholding the Constitution. I mean, I have a mini Constitution that I carry in my bag, but I never use, but I carry in my bag. So I think based on people even going to YouTube and seeing every other political podcast talking about constitutional crisis and all of this, that is, as you mentioned, I know that that's information that we need, but also that I think is interpreted by fear on so many people. Thank God. Even listening to you express and how you talk to people was making me feel good listening to you. So thank you. But I also want to ask, so far, because we're right at the beginning stages of this season, how is your season? How like, what is there a difference, and where are you with your season and reservations and people coming in to help keep your business alive?
Sure. So we have almost no foreign visitors this year. Normally we get about 20 to 25% of our guests in the summer are from overseas. And actually a lot of them historically come in April and May. We see a lot of British people that time frame. And sometimes in October as well. So not in the height of the season when the rates are the highest. They often come a little bit on what we call the shoulder seasons. And those were really non-existent this year. I would say down like 90%. But we are seeing people locally who are making up for some of that by choosing to come in. And one difference is that people who travel a long way tend to plan ahead, which is great when you're running a business and you can see how your bookings are for a future period. Last minute bookings are a little more touch and go, a little more challenging for business owners. So we are seeing that. I think when we look back at the end of the season, we will see that while it's probably going to be off a little bit this year, especially because we can't really replace all of our foreign tourists. 25% is a big number. But we will see Americans, people in the country who will travel here. So hopefully everything turns out okay. But there's also, even among people who come every year, maybe every summer, there's a little bit of hesitation. I have a number of federal employees who have been in touch with me since January 20th saying, if I lose my job, I won't be able to come, which I completely understand. And we'll do everything we can to support them. But that's a real, again, the fear of people losing their livelihood kind of puts a kibosh on vacation planning.
Yeah.
So it's rough. It's rough.
And I will say, Stephen and I know from personal experience, you are so generous. So I know that you're doing whatever you can to be supportive of the people that have supported your business over the years very consistently. But we have an opportunity, this is a radio show, and we have people who are listening and who are very supportive of what we're talking about. But we may have people who perhaps sit on the fence or don't understand why this is an important conversation. So let me ask you this. I know many people don't realize how essential migrant labor is to industries like yours, hospitality and tourism. So the question for you, from your perspective, what is the biggest misconception about the migrant workforce that you wish people would understand?
So thank you so much for that question, because I do think that that's really at the heart of a lot of what's a lot of the problems that we face in the immigration policy arena right now. And that is that people who don't work in jobs like mine don't understand that we don't have the people or the skill set or the willingness for people to do a lot of the jobs that hospitality industry relies on, the tourism industry relies on. It's very seasonal, as I said before. It's really hard to live your life where you get paid for 6 months out of the year. That's a very, very difficult lifestyle. People who come here as migrants, book through whatever mechanism, are signing up for that, and they're okay with it. We have to go out in order to recruit our international workers, and we have about 12 currently that we expect to have this summer out of a workforce of about 40. Those 12, before we can bring them, we have to go through a process where for 30 to 45 days we recruit locally, and locally means in the United States, for people to come do these jobs. In the 7 years that I've been recruiting people internationally to come work here, 12 to 15 jobs per year, I have literally had one U.S. resident who applied for the job. People don't even want to apply for these jobs, and they don't want to work in this industry. And it's hard to say that, but when you hear the larger discussion about, we're going to bring semiconductor production back home, Americans don't want to do that work. Americans' dream is not to work in a factory producing little tiny electronic pieces of equipment. That's not who we are anymore. And this is not 1946. Rosie the Riveter doesn't want to go and make iPhones in America. And they don't want to wash dishes, and they probably don't want to do a lot of the jobs in the tourism industry. And again, it's not just that they don't want to do the work, because they're probably working other jobs that are equally demanding and equally challenging, but they have a job that goes month after month into the future. My job ends on October 31st. So then you have to go find another job. And that means uprooting yourself, moving to another state, spending 6 months there. That's a hard life. So it's the whole combination. And we haven't even talked about housing costs on the Cape, which you all know exactly how terrible that is. But, if you're making $15 an hour, you cannot afford to live on the Cape. You cannot afford to live here.
True.
Now, migrants work in situations where housing comes with the job, and the housing is not glamorous, but it's safe, it's secure, and it's comfortable. And they are able to live there, and it's part of the job offer. But again, it's only for 6 months out of the year. So these jobs that I have available are going to be scooped up by people who come from outside the country. And then they add to the fabric of our nation. I mean, as a child of an immigrant from Greece who was born there, I appreciate the diversity that the various ethnic groups that have come here to this country and added to the beautiful fabric of our nation. And so I like that. Here's another wave that are coming in who are looking for jobs. They start in the most menial of jobs, and with skill and time, they work their way up. And some stay, some come back only every 6 months, every year, and work often in the same place. We have somebody who's been with us for 7 years. She comes every year. She's from Poland. She comes every year in May, and she leaves every year in October, and she loves this lifestyle. It works for her. So these are tough jobs to recruit for.
Yeah, and let me tell you, Steve, we know who you're talking about, and for us, that's what happens. We become accustomed to see these people year after year. We've become friendly with them, and when we come to town, we look for them, and it's heartbreaking to see some of the familiar faces not coming back because of the current situation. And it's just so frustrating and so unfair in so many levels.
It is.
Stephen, you have a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, based on what we're talking about is that because we've stayed so many times at your place and ate at your restaurant, Steve, the people that have come to be part of your business have been just incredible. But I do have a question. Based on like everything that's happening, and I know Elix and I were just there last weekend. We had a friend come from the West Coast, so we took her to P-Town, and we were talking about this is one of the most extraordinary communities that Elix and I have ever seen. How it's just such a strong community. Has that brought you and other business owners even closer because of what's going on?
I do think so. We've certainly been meeting, beginning in January, we had sessions with business owners so that people could understand what is what rights do you as a business owner have? What responsibilities do you have? What can ICE do, for example, if they come to your property, or other federal law enforcement? And so we have taken time and we've been surprisingly, I think, united in our response, just that everybody, people want to help each other out. People want to make sure that what this town represents in terms of an attraction for people from around the world, gay and straight, artists and non-artists, who want to come here and experience this unique thing that we've built here. They want to make sure that we can continue to do it, and we're facing some tough wins. I mean, once the immigration stuff started, and then with the tariffs, a lot of countries are upset at even the threat of tariffs. And so they're not willing to come to our country. They don't want to invest in Team America right now. And so, as business owners, we had to talk about this, and everybody came to the same conclusion, which was we have to respect how they're looking at it, and we can't take it personally because things above us are making it impossible for them to come here and have a carefree vacation in a place that seems to be chaotic and seems to be unwelcoming. And, the three of us wouldn't go on vacation to a place where we weren't welcome or where we felt we weren't welcome. So at the same time, we do want to tell people that they're welcome and that we will treat them, with the same open arms and respect that we always have. And we will bring foreign workers, and we will bring our A game to giving them the best vacation that they can possibly have.
And that we can absolutely do. Stephen, we need to take another break. Hang in there. We have more questions, and as this is an important conversation to be had. So we'll be right back. And hello, everyone. Welcome back to Get a Grip with Coach Helix. I'm your host, Coach Helix, and with me, my amazing co-host,
Stephen.
Stephen the Medium. Today, we're talking about voices from the margins, immigration, identity, and human rights. And we have our friend, Steve Katsurinis, who is an attorney and an innkeeper at beautiful Provincetown, Massachusetts. He actually owns and manages two beautiful properties, 8 Dyer and Benchmark. Steve, welcome back.
Thank you.
So let me ask this question because in the break I just said to Steven, listening to you, it just this makes me so upset that this is what's going on in our country and that you guys have to deal with what you have to deal with. But let me ask you, Steve, I'm sure there's many listeners that want to be allies. They don't know how to be allies. What advice would you give them as to how they can be an ally, how they can support you, and where they can start?
Well, I think it starts with individual action, which is something as simple as if you see a person with a foreign accent out in public in a restaurant, be friendly, be welcoming. Try to understand that for that person to come here, however they got here, and let me just say this, most of the people that are in this country from overseas are here legally. They're on a visa of some sort, and they are allowed to be here, and they're supposed to be here working. And so welcome them. If you see people who are not being treated well, speak up for them. We have rights. If I see a masked federal law enforcement agent acting inappropriately, they're doing that. I'm paying their salary. They're doing that in my name. And if they're breaking the law, speak up. I'm not saying stick yourself into the system. Don't interfere with what's going on necessarily, but speak up. Tell people it's not okay. Go on Facebook and tell people it's not okay. And when you hear of these things, educate yourself about what's going on, and then speak up and stand up for the Constitution, for basic rights, for a vision of this country as a welcoming place for immigrants and for people who come here to pursue the American dream. I mean, almost everybody listening to this call, to this interview, has probably an ancestor in their background who came into the United States. And that they came for the dream, and that dream is still here if we allow it to exist. So I think you speak up. I think you, again, start with just being friendly, being open, being supportive of immigrants is the baseline. And from there, how much you feel like speaking up and becoming an advocate for people in these situations is up to you. No one's responsibility to get out there and do it, but it is certainly something that will make a difference. And I think you're already seeing it in poll data that shows that Americans are not comfortable with the direction that this has gone. I think a lot of people thought that criminal aliens were going to be deported, and most people have no problem with that. Most people don't want criminals who aren't supposed to be in this country in the first place being here. But once you start taking the 38-year resident who's married with children, married to a U.S. citizen with children, running a business like happened in Houston, Texas a few days ago, and they're removed with no due process at all, people want to speak up about that. People want to say that's not the vision of this country. That's not what we signed up for. And so people should speak up, and they should let both allies as well as people that they don't agree with hear their frustration and also their statement of their belief of what this country is about when it comes to immigration.
I so agree with you. It's interesting because when I hear people about being afraid or talking about being afraid to speak up, which I get. Listen, I'm not here to judge, but on the other hand, I'm here to say, you know what? Been there, done that. Don't ask, don't tell. We know it didn't work, so we're not going through that again. Steve, I know Stephen have another question. Go ahead, Stephen.
No, it's just not a question. It's just we have to stay also positive. I know that we're going through a really, really tough time, but I was just thinking, Steve, that when I made a comment about how the Provincetown community is just such an amazing community, I think that you will find and see that that's going to sort of expand out of Provincetown right now, with people that just not only love Provincetown but love coming to see you and getting to see you and staying at your establishment and your inns and the restaurant. And I know there's going to be a lot of people just supporting you.
Well, I
we're one of
completely
them.
agree.
We're one of them,
Yes,
by the
you
way.
are. Yes, you are.
But-
And look, I mean, it's people of goodwill who know what is the right thing to do is, and they will speak up. And I agree, we need to be positive. Fear is the enemy, and the chaos is the way that people who want to harm this country are doing it, and we have to speak up against that.
I totally agree.
Absolutely.
So one last question, perhaps a way to close, because we're getting to the top of the hour. How can people support businesses like yours who clearly need the support? What can we do to support not only you but other businesses, whether you're here in Massachusetts or wherever you are? Businesses like yours are being affected. What can we do to support you?
Well, obviously, the most important thing is come to businesses, eat out, right? Book a vacation. And when you're here, know that you're being cared for by people, by businesses that have welcomed immigrants to work there, and by immigrants who are working their tails off to give you a good experience. So, they say money talks. That's one way to do it. The other is just, speak up if you hear that some business is struggling because they don't have enough workers. See if you can help connect them to workers. There are people that want to do these jobs. They just don't necessarily know they're available. And businesses are struggling a little. Part of it is not just that people don't want to come, but it's also that our government is really slow in issuing the visas that people need. So we're about a month behind where we normally are at this point. We're open at all of our businesses, and we're struggling with not as many workers as we normally have. They will come, but they're not here yet. So also be patient with people. And especially, again, as I said before, if you encounter somebody and they have an accent that indicates that they've come here, be patient with them. They went a lot further than you did to get to that restaurant that day.
That's really good, Steve. Let me share with people, how can people get a hold of you? Tell them about, the A-Dyer, Benchmark, Yo Loqueria. Tell them all about what you do.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. So my husband and I, Brandon Quesnell, own 8-Dyer Hotel and the Benchmark Inn, which are side by side on Dyer Street in Provincetown. Our websites are 8dyer.com and benchmarkinn.com. We also operate two restaurants. In the morning, it's a Mexican-influenced breakfast called Yo Loqueria. My husband's grandmother was born in Mexico, and he's got some of her very best recipes. So the chilaquiles that he makes in the morning are renowned. In the evening, it's a little more in my background. It's called Mediterranean. So meze are small plates, and it's small plates from across the Med, cocktails that support that menu, and great wines from the Mediterranean. So, and we're located at 401.5 Commercial Street, yoqueria.com, spelled YOLQUERIA, and Mediterranean, it's mezzeptown.com, MEZZE, ptown.com. And we'd love to have anybody listening to the show come in and join us.
We're on the way, Steve. Just saying. Just saying.
Right now, Steve, we're in the car.
I'm gonna sit down with Steven and we're gonna go over our schedules. Things are a little hectic for us, but we're definitely gonna be there for sure. Listen, thank you so much. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for all that you do for so many, and for being such a supportive guide for the people that relied on you, that work for you, and for many others who are listening to today's show. So thank you for joining us. You have an open invite, so anytime you want to come back, just give us a shout out, and you have an invitation here.
I appreciate it. Thank you for doing this important show. You could choose on any topic, and you picked this, and I thank you for that.
Thanks,
Beautiful.
Steve.
Thank you. And Stephen, we're at the top of the hour, so it's we gotta wrap it up. I'm not gonna honestly. I'm a little irritated about when people make statements about immigrants that they're all criminals, and that
No,
is such a
yeah.
freaking ignorant.
Yeah, it just
to make.
it blows my mind for somebody to be so spiritual and be so ignorant is pathetic. It completely changes my perspective. But listen, this whole show was positive, so let's stick with the positivity.
that,
We're
yes.
always going to have people that are there, so this is all positive. This is all just spreading love, and just help to anybody who needs it. And so if you want to find me, because that's what I do, Stephen the Medium on my website and social media, so you can make appointments, you can check out what I do, you can check out my courses, you can check out my events, where I'm going to be, and I'm good.
And don't forget, Sunday at 7 p.m., Steelix the series on YouTube.
Yes.
Look us up on YouTube,
Yes.
our brand new YouTube channel, and we will not disappoint. If you're not following me, you better follow me at Coach Elex. I'm going to start doing some daily live so that you'll get to experience our day-to-day happenings. And today, I want to thank Mr. Jim Jones for stepping into Mr. Clark, our producer, who is away enjoying New York City. Thank you, Jim, for
Thanks,
just
Jim.
showing up and making sure that today's show got done. And thank you, everyone, at WARA 1320 AM radio. And we will be back next week. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.